Well, the nation pays tribute to its 40 fallen Jawans who were martyred in the Pulwama terror attack. The mortal remains of the martyrs have started to arrive at their respective native places. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the nation yesterday as he walked around the 40 coffins with his head bowed. National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Congress President Rahul Gandhi and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal were among others to pay homage to the martyrs. And an all-party meeting is underway in the Parliament in order to discuss India's next course of action on the Pulwama attack. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has strongly condemned the attack, assuring that the forces behind the terror attack will be punished. PM also warned Pakistan that it is making a big mistake. Meanwhile, Congress President Rahul Gandhi extended support to the government and said that the entire opposition stands with the government and the Jawans. Parikshit Luthra joins in.
Well, this is a very important meeting that is underway in Parliament, and this is essentially to get the entire opposition on board. The Prime Minister yesterday appealed to the opposition to speak in one voice, not to politics, stand by the Jawans and back the government on every diplomatic and military offensive it launches from now onwards. So essentially what's happening in this meeting, you've got the likes of Shiv Sena, the Trinamool Congress, the left, the RJD, the TRS, so parties from across the political spectrum. They're there in Parliament meeting Rajnath Singh and other political leaders. Rajnath Singh, who was in Jammu and Kashmir yesterday, is briefing all party leaders, all politicians and parliamentarians on the situation in Jammu and Kashmir. The government is also giving a sense of the steps being taken to corner Pakistan, both diplomatically and militarily. The message will be very simple: support the government, support the Jawans at this stage, and speak to the enemy in one voice.
All right, Parikshit, thanks a lot for that. And in a strongly worded message, PM Modi said that the security forces have been given a free hand to retaliate and has called on citizens to unite in this hour of grief.
हमारे उन दुश्मन, हमारे पाकिस्तान के बैठे हुए लोग ये भली भांति समझ लें, आपने जो रास्ता अपनाया है, आपने अपनी बर्बादी देखी है। हमने जो रास्ता अपनाया है, हमारी दिन दोगुना रात चार गुना उन्नति भी दुनिया देख रही है। भाइयों बहनों, हमारे पड़ोसी उसके इस मंसूबे का देश के 130 करोड़ लोग मिलकर के जवाब देंगे, मुंहतोड़ जवाब देंगे।
All right, Parikshit is still with us, and the National Security Advisor Shri Ajit Doval also had a telephone call with his US counterpart, Ambassador John Bolton, late last evening. The call was initiated by the US side to express condolences and outrage over the Pulwama attack and step up pressure on China. What are the details there, Parikshit?
Well, we'd like to tell our viewers that we're getting to know that at least 48 countries have shown solidarity with India. They've condoled the loss of lives and have expressed shock and outrage. The strongest statement has come from the United States, from the White House, from the State Department, calling upon Pakistan to end those terror havens. What was significant is that last evening, Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor, received a call from the U.S. National Security Advisor, Ambassador John Bolton. And John Bolton made it clear that it supports India's right to self-defense against cross-border terrorism of all forms. At the same time, the U.S. stands with India and is ready to provide all help in bringing the perpetrators of this terror attack to justice. So this is a very strong statement coming from the United States. It would corner Pakistan in one way. So clearly, it seems that US and India are on the same page. There would be intelligence sharing on the Pulwama attack that has taken place. Diplomatically as well, there would be a message sent to the Pakistan government that they need to bring the perpetrators of this attack to book, and they need to end terror havens like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed on their soil to a complete end.
Dikshit, thanks a lot for joining us and giving us all those details. We'll keep coming back to you. But let's move on. In the wake of the Pulwama terror attack, the Enforcement Directorate has formed a special cell to counter terror financing. CNN News 18's Ashish Mehrishi joins in with all the details. Ashish, over to you.
Well, in fact, very important step being taken. Though, this has in the pipeline for quite some time, but this is a very important decision by the government. Reason being because we've already seen so many times that even not only Hawala channels, but genuine banking channels have also been used by terror groups to send finance to the terrorists. Most of these people, the way they are doctored, the way they are brainwashed, not too much of money is required. But then ultimately, the terror attacks have with the kind of loss that India has faced in the past, it has been, mammoth. The magnitude has been too much. So ultimately, the Enforcement Directorate is now going to go cracking on terror financing. A joint director level officer is stationed in the headquarters who's going to look after this. They've already attached assets of many Maoists in the past. Now they're going to go cracking on terror financing, and many assets are expected to be attached related to people who have been involved into terror financing. So big time action you can expect in a few days from now.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us, Ashish. But my colleague from CNN News 18, Arunima, she joins in from Srinagar with what's the situation like there on ground. Hi, Arunima, over to you.
Investigation so far in the Pulwama CRPF death case is on full swing. The forensic team, the National Investigation Team, they have sifted through the debris there, and 2-3 things have emerged. One, the nature of explosive. The core of the bomb, at least the IED, seems to be RDX. Whether there were other explosives used or not, well, no traces have been found on the ground so far as per sources. Second, where did the RDX come from? Because it's difficult to procure. The suspicion is it was smuggled from across the border, and perhaps in small parts. The entire consignment didn't come at one go, it came in small parts. Point number 3, was there any support, any cover fire for Waqas or Adil Dar when he carried out a suicide bombing? Initial suspicion was that there was gunfire, grenades were lobbed, but after the team of investigators visited the site, they are of the opinion that he seemed to be alone in this attack. There were people who helped him put together the bomb, put the explosive in the car, but at that moment when he attacked the convoy of CRPF, there was nobody else from Jaish-e-Mohammed who was there to give him cover. So those are the details that have emerged at the moment. DG CRPF is all set to visit Lethpura to take first-hand experience of what really happened there. In the meanwhile, investigators are also continuing their job of trying to get as much evidence from the ground as possible.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Well, let's move on. A team of NIA officials along with explosives and forensics experts have collected the materials required for forensic evaluation of the scene of blast. The outcome would be declared after this analysis is over. Our deepest respect for our brave soldiers and condolences to the families. India's trade deficit has widened in the month of January. Data released by the government shows that the trade gap stands at the $15 billion mark in January. This is slightly below the gap in January last year, but significantly higher than what it was in December. Total export stands at just over $26 billion. This is a drop of over $1 billion from December, even though this is slightly higher on a year-on-year basis. Imports remain largely the same, despite a 38% spike in gold imports in January. Moving on to the big news, RBI threatens action against Yes Bank for disclosing nil divergence report, saying this is in violation of the confidentiality clause. And Ritu Singh joins in with what this could mean for the bank. Hey Ritu, good morning.
Morning, Sonal. Yes, it is actually bad news for Yes Bank, given that strict penal regulatory action may be taken against it for diverging details of the risk assessment report. Where remember last week Yes Bank stated that it had received the risk assessment report from RBI where 0 divergences were noted. Now, do remember, the regulations are very clear that if the divergence is above 15%, banks are required to disclose that information. But if it's below the 15%, there is no such regulation requiring them to disclose the exact quantum of divergence, which the bank did by saying it had 0 divergences to report. Further, RBI has noted that by making only a part of the risk assessment report public, Yes Bank is trying to mislead the public because there are also other lapses and regulatory breaches in various areas of the bank functioning that the report noted and which have not been made public by Yes Bank. Therefore, RBI advised Yes Bank to make this release public and it could entail further regulatory action on account of the confidentiality breach that Yes Bank made by issuing that press release.
Absolutely, it is a negative news for Yes Bank. But Ritu, stay on. Yesterday was the last day for potential suitors to submit their bids for debt-ridden JP Infra. The company saddled with debt of about 10,000 crore rupees and is undergoing resolution under the bankruptcy code. So what's the latest and who are the suitors?
Well, Sonal, initially 5 expressions of interest were submitted. Those included that from L&T Infra that later backed out because it was only interested in part of the assets and not the entire company. After that, there were 4 other players, that is state-owned NBCC, Singapore-based Cube Highways, Kotak Investments, as well as Suraksha Group. Now, we understand from sources that the deadline to submit the bids for JP Infra expired yesterday, that is on Friday, and only 2 players out of these 4 came forward to submit final bids. Those include the Suraksha Group, which was also declared the highest bidder in the previous round, but subsequently its bid was rejected for being too low. And the second bidder that has come forward this time around is NBCC, which is a new entrant and was not part of the entire resolution process in the first round. Do remember, this is the second time that the process of insolvency has been started afresh for JP Infratech after the company reached the brink of liquidation. But in the interest of the 20,000 home buyers involved, the Supreme Court in October of last year had ordered the lenders to restart the process, and the bids are finally now being received. Monday, that is the 18th of February, is when the COC would be meeting to review the bids that have been placed.
Absolutely, Ritu. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll keep coming back to you for more details. But let's move on. It has been a mixed bag for the life insurance sector in FY19 as far as premium growth is concerned. While market leader LIC's premium growth slumped by 2% on a year-on-year basis till January 31st, ICICI Pru's Life saw a spike of 6.5%. Yash Jain is here with the analysis. Hi, Yash.
Well, if you look at the financial performance of life insurance companies for the month of January 2019, the most striking aspect has been the financial performance of Life Insurance Corporation of India. Just to take you through some numbers, LIC's premium growth for the month of January 2019, of course, has seen a growth of 48%. But if you see the premium growth from April 2018 till Jan 2019, which is the first 10 months, that has seen a drop of 1.8%. Not just that, but also there has been some disappointment on the market share front. LIC has lost its market share in the month of Jan 2019, which has come down to 66.26% versus 66.49% in the month of December 2018. As far as other private life insurance companies are concerned, to start with, Max Life Insurance has seen the strongest premium growth. For the month of January, that premium has increased by 30% and has come at 463 crore, whereas for the month of April 2018 till Jan 2019, Max Life has seen a premium growth of 19%. Talking about ICICI Prudential Life, for the month of Jan, the premium growth stands at 28%. But for the period of April 2018 till Jan 2019, ICICI Pru has been on a slow wicket. The premium growth has been just about 6.5%. For HDFC Life, the premium growth has been quite strong, both from April 2018 till Jan 2019 as well as for the month of January 2019 at about 38.45% and 23.4% respectively. For SBI Life, for the month of Jan, the premium growth has been quite slow. That has come in at about 3.9% growth on a year-on-year basis at about 1,340 crore rupees. Whereas for the period of April 2018 till Jan 2019, for SBI Life, the premium growth has been 27.4%. Overall, if you look at the pie, private players have grown at a premium growth rate of 22.9%, whereas public sectors, that is only Life Insurance Corporation of India, has seen a degrowth of 1.8%, and the overall industry growth figure has come in at a mere 5.32%. Now, I've been speaking to market experts and they tell me that the single-digit growth for the industry is due to weak performance, of individual single premium as well as the group non-single premium as far as for the month of January 2019 as well as the first 10 months are concerned.
Thanks a lot for that. Well, now let's shift focus to the IT space. Cognizant has released a statement saying it has resolved previously disclosed FCPA matter with the US authorities. Mugdha Warrior joins in with more details on that.
Yes, Cognizant has settled its bribery case in India from 2014, and the company will pay about $28 million to the US Department of Justice and the US Securities Exchange Commission. And 2 of its very senior executives have been criminally charged for their role in bribery. This includes former President Gordon Coburn and ex-Chief Legal Officer Stephen Schwartz. Now remember, these 2 were involved in this bribery case of 2014 of a bribe of about $2 million to some government officials for a permit for a tech park in Chennai. And, this bribe was paid to a third-party contractor, and these executors facilitated the reimbursement to these contractors and, also concealed this bribe in internal records. And remember, around the same time in 2014, there was also a bribery case of Cognizant in Pune for an environmental clearance for a project. So these are some serious lapses of the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. But the U.S. authorities are citing Cognizant's cooperation and self-disclosure for declining to prosecute the company. And this, Cognizant is seeing this as a favorable outcome because remember, many in the industry were estimating that the penalty will be much higher. So this is some relief for Cognizant, especially at a time when it has announced its leadership change with Brian Humphreys coming in as the new CEO from April. And so, the outgoing CEO, Francisco de Souza, has said that they're pleased with the resolution and that, this will help them put the matter behind them.
All right, Mukta, thanks a lot for joining us and giving us all those details. Moving on to a CNBC TV 18 special report, political funding through electoral bonds has witnessed a sharp surge after the assembly polls in 5 states. Kevin Lee joins in with the exclusive details. Kevin, take us through the details.
Well, after the results of state elections in December, we've seen a spike in the funding that political parties are getting from the new electoral bond instruments. In fact, for the latest tranche of electoral bonds that were issued in January this year, it spiked almost 100% to 350 crore rupees over the number that it was in the last tranche, which was issued in November 2018. Also, importantly, this is the highest number of bonds bought in any tranche since the electoral bonds were first issued in March 2018. Further to that, high denomination bonds, which are either 10 lakh rupee bonds or 1 crore rupee bonds, accounted for over 99% of the total money that was raised through electoral bonds. Let's just take you quickly through the trend that we've seen since electoral bonds were first issued in March 2018. So as you can see here, it started strong with 222 crore rupees raised in the first tranche. After that, we saw a gradual dip in April, May, eventually falling to just 32.5 crore rupees raised in July 2018. Since then, however, we've seen a gradual upswing as well. That number spiked in October 2018 with 401 crore rupees worth of bonds being raised. Remember, this was the last tranche before 5 key state elections that we saw in November and December. The number fell again in November to 184 crore rupees. And for the latest tranche, we've seen that number come back to 937 bonds issued worth 350 crore rupees. Now, of course, we don't know which parties are really receiving these donations through electoral bonds because that is anonymous. However, it is a heartening sign that before the Lok Sabha elections, we're seeing an uptick in donations to political parties through these electoral bonds.
All right, Kevin, thanks a lot for that. The world's largest manufacturer of flavors and fragrances, Givaudan, is betting big on India. The company has invested 400 crores in setting up its second and largest factory in Pune. CNBC TV 18's Priya Sheth caught up with Giles Andreer, CEO of Givaudan, to understand the company's plans going forward. Listen in.
Yes, so this Pune plant that we have invested into 60 million Swiss francs is a very large investment. It's actually the largest we did in India. It's an entirely dedicated plant to make flavors, and it comes in combination with the Daman plant, the plant that we have in Daman, that we have had now for almost 20 years. So it's really to add capacity to continue growing in India. Actually, for flavors and fragrances over the last 20 years, we've grown double-digit in a very consistent way in India. For the group, we have a target of growing 4 to 5% in the world until 2020, which is basically the plan that we have communicated 3 years ago. It's a 5-year plan. Obviously, high growth markets is the lion's share of the growth, which is going to get us there. China and India being the largest growth opportunities, market growth opportunities we have ahead of us. So far, we are fully on track. The revenue that we make in India for Givaudan is roughly 4% of our total sales.
And as we wind down on the show, here is the beginner's guide explaining equity mutual funds for new investors. Thanks for watching the show and stay tuned.
Thank you, Sumaira. Welcome.
This is outstanding coffee, Sumera. It actually reminds me of a few friends who opened a coffee shop and they grew massively after that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of growth actually that equity mutual funds also try to offer. So they invest in shares or equities that have growth potential. Let's say if I was to start a cafe and the capital required for that is 10 lakhs, but I only have 25% of that amount. So I get 3 of my friends to contribute 2.5 lakhs each and start the cafe. Now all 4 of us are 25% partners. So whatever profit or loss the cafe makes, all the partners will bear it proportionate to the percentage of share they hold. This is the concept of equity.
On the other hand, if your friends would have offered you 2.5 lakhs each as a loan for a fixed interest and you remain the sole owner of the cafe, then that would have been debt. If you made bad coffee and if your cafe suffered losses, then the debt investors, who are your friends who have put money on an interest basis, will not suffer losses and you will still owe them the money with the interest which you've committed. On the other hand, if you make wonderful coffee and you become a millionaire with all the expansion you're going to do, then the equity partners who gave you money to become partners with you would become millionaires as well. Taking the same principle ahead, equity mutual funds invest in becoming partners with companies to grow their capital and get the appreciation which they deserve.
But the pursuit of higher returns also involves risk, right? So if you're the kind of investor who's willing to take on a certain amount of risk in order to get higher returns, then equity mutual funds are for you. Although your fund manager would try to bring down the risk by investing in multiple companies so as to diversify your portfolio.
And if you're averse to risk, then definitely debt becomes a good alternative for the person who actually dislikes risk.
By the way, Feroz, I'm actually planning to start a cafe. So are you looking to invest in it?
First, let me taste the coffee you've made.
Oh my God, then you're never going to invest in my cafe. If there's one term in the investing vocab that's surprisingly little understood, it's volatility. And Feroz, not just that it's not understood, but it's a term that's, I think, the most feared by investors.
Actually, people don't have to fear volatility, they have to understand it.